Damian, for you, it is this apprenticeship story that we were talking about there. So the Express are saying that the Prime Minister has vowed to axe worthless degrees to fund 100,000 more apprenticeships. How does that work? How do you actually transfer those?
Well, look, we want to maximise and optimise opportunities for young people. There are different routes right for different people. You asked specifically about the money and how it works. There is a public subsidy, a taxpayer funding effectively goes into undergraduate financing, even though people think about the loan. Actually, because a proportion of loans isn't paid off, that becomes a taxpayer cost, and it's in transferring that money from what's a relatively small proportion of courses that would go to fund this huge expansion in apprenticeships. You know, Labour have a policy that would cut apprenticeships in half. This is a policy that is going to grow apprenticeships and, as I say, maximise and optimise those opportunities.
Winnie, you know, you've been in power 12 years or so. Why haven't you done this before? I just get all you guys, you all promise, you go to an election and you promise we're going to do this, we're going to do that. My question all the time is, why haven't you done it before now?
Eamon, that is a totally fair question. Slightly more than 12 years, actually, we've been in.
Coalition,
we have been reforming apprenticeships. So we do not have just an obsession with numbers. In fact, in the last few years, we've really upgraded the quality of apprenticeships. We've brought in a regulator, effectively, the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education. We've made sure that apprenticeship standards are designed by companies. We've legislated for minimum amounts of training. So these are not the apprenticeships that you had 15 years ago. These are different, much better apprenticeships. And now we've got a really, really quality approach. We want to grow it. In contrast to the Labour Party, who want to halve it, we want to maximise those opportunities.
What would you say to those people who are alarmed to hear the government casting judgment on what should be a Mickey Mouse degree or not? I mean, clearly you are looking at whether this leads to good wages and future income. But other people would say tertiary education is of a value of its own, and it's not for the government to decide
and they're quite right.
Where that is.
So, look, that is quite right. Education is not and never has been only or solely about your future career and about your income. Although, actually, if you talk to young people, they do also expect that for higher education is going to help you in your career, and quite rightly. But there is more to it. You said, you know, what makes it all right for the government to determine what's a good degree or a bad degree? Actually, the government won't determine that. We've created the Office for Students specifically to be able to evaluate the quality of what students are getting. What we're talking about today is strengthening that. We're not going to say to any young person, you cannot go to university. We're going to make sure that when that young person does go to university, they're not going onto a course which has perhaps been a bit oversold. They're only going to go onto a course that's got good quality. Earnings potential is only part of that. Actually, a really, really important measure of quality is about completion rates. So, you know, if you've got lots of people dropping out of a course, that's no good for anybody.
I just wonder if this is an attempt to try and look as though you are appealing to the younger vote, and I just want to sort of explore that and whether or not that is a genuine outcome from this policy. A lot of people have been saying, you know, your move to the triple lock plus and talking about the conscription rules is kind of alienating the younger vote, but I actually wonder if whether or not cutting degrees and saying sign up to Rishi's army is going to win over the younger voter. Have you just given up on them altogether?
Well, look, I think there was a slight mischaracterisation, if you don't mind me saying so, of the national service, the modern form of national service that the Prime Minister has announced. I'm also not sure there's anything wrong with appealing to young people. Look, we have an approach.
No, I think it's great. I just think that it's a false
yesterday
appeal.
We've had a really important policy about pensions. Today is an important policy about maximising opportunity for young people and training and investing in their futures. And we've got a plan which is about the whole of the country, the whole of our society. In contrast to Labour, who don't have a plan for anybody, we shouldn't be dividing us up into bits. This is about the whole of our country.
Damian, good talking to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Damian Hinds is the Education Minister, speaking to us live there from Westminster. Let's now find out the views of Scarlett, McGwire and Clare Muldoon as they review the papers. And this is on the front page, Clare, of the Daily Express, particularly here we're referring to. So what do you think of this story?
I think it's a really good idea, and it's about time they've cut all the Mickey Mouse degrees on Taylor Swift and underwater basket weaving and all this. Tertiary education is not a rite of passage for every single child. And this country really has to start focusing on our kids. We've reported on the number of international students coming over, ousting at often lower sets of grades to get in than our own students who are studying really, really hard, who attain the grades and can't get into the course because the universities are strapped for cash, and they are letting in the international students. Also, how can earth is a degree from an old polytechnic or an old college made up to a university, costs £9,250 a year. Can you honestly tell me that degree is worth exactly the same as a degree from a Russell Group or Oxford or Cambridge?
Yeah.
It's not.
Employers know the difference.
They do know the difference.
And it is the huge
I
debts that
don't think employers do know the difference at all. Employers are box tickers, and they go and they say, have you got a degree or have you not? Anybody should know the difference is if someone has intelligence, has natural intelligence, and they don't need a degree, they do need a degree.
That's the thing.
And they need a skill. They need to be a surgeon or they need to be something like that. And they should learn that at university. Of course they should. But people don't necessarily need degrees. This idea that you're nobody unless you have a Britney Spears degree or whatever.
And with apprenticeships, you can earn while you learn, whereas in universities, people are coming out with £45,000 of debt, which many people can, frankly, never pay off. It prevents them from getting
And they don't often repay it, which is the burden and the taxpayer then.
Look, I mean, I think that actually, you know, going to university is great. I think if you look at the Daily Express,
but not going to university is great too.
Yes, but I think that it's an option that should be made. And I think many of the universities that they're talking about not being very good, they are universities that mostly take local people. Right. The thing about the Russell Group universities is they are mostly middle-class kids, right? That
Scarlett, I don't think that's true now.
It's actually true, Claire. But actually, what's really important is that if you look at the courses that the Daily Express says, you know, aren't worth it, right? 3 of them are performing arts, where you don't earn very much money.
Right. This is my concern.
But I think if you want to go into the performing arts, you are not going into it for the money, right? That I think, and actually, if you
offering it as a degree doesn't help. Then
it does actually. It rather helps. Performing arts degrees, they do help, and they do help you get jobs. But because they teach you a lot of skills. And actually, if you talk to people in the performing arts, what they're really worried about at the moment is the people coming up behind them are all privately educated. That actually, the arts is becoming very small. So I think there's nothing wrong with performing arts courses, and there isn't. You know, I mean, I asked Claire to give me the courses she thinks should be cut, and they don't exist. I mean, that's the real thing. Is that I think that is
that's quite reductive of you to say that, Scarlett.